I'm going to talk to Mark. Let's talk to Mark, pronouns he, him, calling in from minute Achilles. A great hero, but tiny. That's so stupid. That's so stupid. Who says that there's no moral framework possible without an absolute arbiter? Let's talk to Mark. Mark, you're on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing?
Hi, everyone. You're cracking me up there. Minute. Thank you. My name's Mark. I'm calling from Massachusetts. I'm 59. And yeah, just like to chat with you guys. Just discovered your little show here. And so that's great. So,
right on. Can I just kick off? Back up off your microphone a little bit because it's crackling real loud.
Oh, yeah. Is it any better?
That's a little better. Yeah, it's still pretty loud, but it's not that bad.
Okay.
Yeah. So just jump right in. Tell us why you believe in an absolute arbiter. I'm guessing this is a god. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I would go back to something that was said. So are the hospital bombings morally wrong? Question for you.
Yes, the hospital bombings are morally wrong. Yes.
Okay. How do you know that?
I base my grounding of like my morality on a few things, primarily like health and well-being of humans. So like I understand that bombing a hospital kills humans, it hurts them, and these are non-combatants. These are people that are not actively trying to hurt anyone else. These are mainly children who are seeking medical care for the wounds that were inflicted upon them through other bombings. So these are innocent people trying to survive, and it is hurting them. So I'm able to make a moral judgment that is centered around the objective standard of human health and well-being. Biomedical and psychological sciences tells me that bombing a hospital is bad for humans. And I can then extend that to say this also applies in a like judicial, sort of like a fairness thing, that these people were innocent of any crime that could possibly warrant that kind of treatment. Therefore, this is not an appropriate response. So there's a few ways that I can get there, none of which requires anybody's permission or anybody's divine edict.
Okay, well, you say that's how you get to your moral framework, but maybe some other person has something different. How do you judge yours against someone else who finds value in doing all those things that you think are not morally correct?
If somebody had a different moral framework from me that justified such actions, we could find utilitarian solutions to point out the fact that that kind of behavior is not conducive for human flourishing or society as a whole. And society and human flourishing are beneficial even to the person doing the bombing if you destroy society in such a way that that kind of thing is acceptable, then you are also suffering. So from a completely selfish angle and from a completely selfless angle, this is a wrong thing to do. At the end of the day, of course, you can argue that this is subjective.
Says suffering is not bad. This other person says suffering is not bad. Suffering is good.
Then they are welcome. Then they are welcome to go. Then they are welcome to go suffer as much as they like. But they are not allowed to then inflict suffering on other people. That violates another principle, another universal moral principle of bodily autonomy. And if you don't think that that's a good thing and you think bodily autonomy is bad, then it takes one person who agrees with you to kill you, and then it doesn't matter. So again, from a completely selfless and completely selfish standpoint, you can still argue for my position. At the end of the day, the best thing that you can say is that my morality is subjective. It is based upon my own interpretation of data. But your morality is also subjective. And if you want to point to a God being the divine arbiter, then that morality is also subjective because it's just God's opinion on what is moral. At the end of the day, you always have a subjective standard if anybody is doing any kind of judging. Even if we all rely on one thing like a God to do the judging, it is God's subjective opinion. And all it takes is another God to come along and say something different, and then you have a different moral framework. So you have the exact same problem that I do.
And at the end of the day, your definition of God is flawed because you're assuming that is human-like being. Well, you're saying
I
that
haven't
the
given a
human-like
definition of
being,
God.
that another God could come along. But what if there was only one? Well, but you've made an implication that there could be another God that comes along. But whereas for a singular God, monotheism, there is only one God. There can be no other.
Let me ask you, Mark, do you believe in the God of the Bible?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I don't need to say there's another God. I can just say this God, the God that you believe in, changed its mind and now believes that something else is moral because the Bible very clearly follows the concept of divine command theory. The God of the Bible does immensely horrific things, commands horrific things, justifies horrific things, and those things are always framed as good as long as God is doing them, even when God tells you not to do those very same things because they are moral wrongs in other contexts. So at the end of the day, it is still subjective. This
Yeah.
God is still arbitrarily deciding what is and is not moral based on his subjective decisions.
No, we don't have epistemic access to what God's judgments are, not in totality. Furthermore, you're evading. I'm talking about what you are saying when you say something is wrong, and then you list objective matters through science, concurrent beliefs among others who also agree with you, but you've done nothing to bolster your point that relativism, from the moral standpoint, simply means that's what you like. If somebody else likes something else, then therefore that's fine for them. If that same person takes your same position along the same lines that you're arguing, then they are right as well. And now you have P and not P existing, and you've broken the law of non-contradiction.
Yeah, that's not really how that works. And more importantly, like you
Exactly how
haven't
it
done
works. No,
anything to get
tell me how it doesn't work. Tell me how it doesn't work. Tell me how it doesn't work. What I just said, tell me how it doesn't work.
I'm going to go ahead and finish the sentence that I was saying before you interrupted me. Even without all of that, you can't get away from the fact that if you, I should ask you, do you believe that the Bible is accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so then yes, exactly what I was saying is true. I just want to make sure I wasn't putting words in your mouth. Even without that, even if I were to sit here and say that, my morality is just whatever the hell I'm feeling in that particular moment, and it doesn't matter to me at any case, there's no consistency. Consistency isn't necessary. I just believe something's good because I believe it's good and therefore it's good. All I've done is given you the exact same morality as the God of the Bible. So like you can sit here and try to like squish my opinion down into this relativistic box of saying that I only believe things are good because they're convenient or because they're easy, because they align with my thinking or whatever like that. At the end of the day, that isn't fairly missing the point.
That is an assumption.
I'm going to continue speaking.
You said it's utilitarian.
I'm gonna go ahead and just put you on mute for a second so I can finish what I was saying. At the end of the day, that will be entirely missing the point of my actual argument and what my actual position was. We can try to dig into that further if you like, but even if I accept the most ridiculous straw man on my position, at the end of the day, it is absolutely no more subjective or no less valid than the religion or the morality presented in the Bible, where God is every bit as capricious and as relativistic as you are trying to make me out to be. I will now bring you back on, Mark.
That's not a counter argument. You're simply saying, "Oh, well, you do it too." If you're trying to make a standpoint on moral relativity, there's no way for you to come out of breaking the law of logic and having two P and not P at the same time. What do you mean?
My argument isn't you do it too. My argument is actually an entirely different thing. What I'm saying to you now is that there's no reason for you to try to straw man my argument in this way, because at the end of the day, even if that was actually what I was saying, that is no different than the supposedly perfect morality of the Bible. So, like, the thing that you were accusing me of doing is no better than what your God does, because your God is completely subjective in its morality and is willing to commit atrocities and command other people to commit atrocities and call those things moral, even when at other times in the Bible he says those same things are immoral because he says they are. So if divine command theory works, which the Bible heavily hinges on, what?
You've already said these points. You still haven't gotten back to the hospital's morally
Right,
wrong. You're saying they're morally wrong. I'm saying someone else says they're morally right. How do you know who is correct from the third party observer or other standpoint? How do you know who's right? And the answer is, which you're unwilling to give, is that you don't, because there's no way to have a relativist position and end up at different ends and still have it logically possible.
So the major issue, so there's two major problems. There's two major problems with what you're saying here. The first problem is that your phone is inside your mouth. The second problem is that when we talk about morality, I don't believe in an actual objective morality. I don't think that there is a concrete, true, actual, serious, right answer, because I don't think morality actually exists outside of a human mind, outside of human society, outside of human constructs. So at the end of the day, it is true to say that two people having very different moral opinions, you can't tell who's actually truly right. You can just argue for what is actually the best and most functional morality. And my argument, based around human health and well-being, societal flourishing, selfish and selfless more reasons for choosing all of that still stands up to that same scrutiny. What you're saying only makes sense if there is an actual objective moral truth that is universal and just actually separate from any kind of human society, a higher standard, which is what you're advocating for from a dogmatic standpoint. So it makes sense why you would do that, but it makes absolutely no sense to say that to me or to try to frame my justifications or my worldview in that light. It's just completely missing the point, which is what I said a minute ago, to try to draw attention to the fact that even if we went down that road, it still wouldn't separate your God from the same position that you were accusing me of taking.
Well, to steel man what you said, there is no ontological transcendental truth. Therefore, that's your starting point, or that's foundational to your arguments. In which case, that's fine. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing you correct. Didn't mean to be adversarial, just trying to move things along. This is a very nice chat.
Okay. It can be a very nice chat with your phone a few feet away from your face. That would be great.
Yeah.
So now we understand.
It's a headset. I can't move it. Sorry about that.
It sucks.
I apologize.
It's awful.
Yeah.
So here's where we are.
I will call in direct another way.
You're coming from a dogmatic standpoint of there being an objective morality derived from a single source. I'm coming from a nihilistic standpoint that there is no such thing as morality. In a fundamental way, it is just something that we make up and we try to make better as we go along. Same with things like justice, democracy, everything else. These are not objectively real things. These are just things that humans invented and we try to improve upon and make it better every single generation. And we fuck it up a lot. So from that standpoint, everything that I have said is logically and morally consistent. Your God is not logically or morally consistent, either from your worldview or mine. So that's where I think we need to be focused.
Okay, I got it. There is no such thing as morality. Have a good night. Bye.
That's not what I said. Do you want to try having an actual conversation, or do you want to just continue digging into the straw man that makes you feel good? Oh, he hung up. That's the answer.
All right.
It just, whatever he says is what we say. Just whatever he thinks we think. Easy.
Well, I guess since he's not going to be here, if I can also quickly point out, if a person did come
Please.
up and say, bombing the hospital is a good and moral thing, I'm going to first try to say, all right, if there's even the possibility that this person is rational, let's see what their reasons are. Do they really believe bombing a hospital will reduce human suffering? If it's their belief that actually, no, human suffering is a good thing and we need to maximize human suffering, they obviously are someone we are not going to participate with in a society. They will be excluding themselves automatically, leaving everyone who is pro-social. And if you're saying, oh, then why are you being pro-social? It's because those other fuckers go and kill themselves. We're the ones alive. A bit of natural selection for why some moral systems stick around longer than others. Is that making it right or wrong in some metaphysical sense? No, but guess what? It's the one that allows us to actually have civil conversations and give us the lives we actually want. If you want a world you want to live in, that's what morality is about. If you don't care how the world is and you just want to follow orders, congratulations, you're a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, that's really the long and short of it. I do appreciate like the when you like kind of look at a call like that, like from retrospect, and just see the actual breadth of the thinking. Like I do appreciate the picture that it paints of Mark's, just like the thought process. Your logic or your morality is logically inconsistent. Actually, it isn't, and I think yours is. Dead silence. Oh, well, you don't even think morality's real. Click. Just sorry. Like this, clearly we went off script. And so, like, I don't know, man. I would genuinely enjoy if Mark got, or Mike or whoever fuck, got a better fucking headset. I would enjoy exploring that a little bit further with him, but I don't think he's able to. I think that this is just, he believes what he believes that we believe what he wants us to believe. And therefore we're all stupid and ridiculous. Because why could we believe something so crazy as what he wishes we believed? And like, that's just not, it's not worth the conversation. Fucking sucks.
Yeah. I was also going to wonder how deep he was going to want to go before defending everything that God commands, because even God admits he gave bad commandments.
Yeah.
When I say that, I mean quite literally. In Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 5, he says he gave the Israelites commandments or statutes that were not good and ordinances they couldn't live by in order to basically screw them up and cause them to, fall away and be terrible. So it's like God literally saying, I'm going to give you orders that I know are crappy to make you crappy. It's like,
you said
that's the morality you want to go by.
Wow, that was a great clip we just watched. Hey, Eve, what should the people do now?
Leave a comment, click like, subscribe, patreon.com/ does that say call the line?
Yeah. But if you could have made, we could just make it a little more natural. On the next clip, the outro will be much better.